I'm going to go ahead and teach you guys how to do animations with just pure JavaScript and without any jQuery. So let's go. And I know I just said I was going to do it without jQuery, but I do want to just remind you guys or just show you how it is done with jQuery first before we move on to just plain JavaScript. So here's how you would animate something to go right. And if you don't know, when you have an element set to position of relative and you give it, you tell it to go left, it'll actually go right. So it's actually the opposite of what you tell it to do. And by the way, you do have to have that position set to relative if you want the animation to happen. So we're gonna grab this ID move me, which is a header, and we're just gonna say, okay, animate for me, and let's see that happen. And if I refresh here, you see, boom, we get that animation that is coming from jQuery. So now the question becomes, how do we do this in just plain old JavaScript? Well, that's what I'm about to show you guys. So let's just get on with it here. So what you do is you say document.getElement by ID, and then we pass in the ID, which was move me. And for simplicity's sake, I am going to set this equal to a variable. So we'll call it variable Joe. That's my name, in case you didn't know. So we have variable Joe equal to this targeted element. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up a function here. And we're going to call this function move, because that's relevant, right? So inside this function, we're going to go ahead and declare a variable. We'll call this variable position. And we'll start the position here at 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another variable called interval. And this interval is going to be set to, and now this is right here is something that's actually built into JavaScript. It's something called setInterval. And this gets two arguments. It gets a function, and we're going to call this function frame. I have not set that up yet, and I will in a second here. But it's going to take in a function, and then it's going to take in an amount of time in milliseconds. And so we're going to execute something, or I'm sorry, we're going to execute this function every 20 milliseconds. And so I'm going to go ahead and set up that function right now. So we're going to have function frame. And now this is where it gets a little hairy. Just bear with me, and I promise I'll explain it all at the end. So we're going to go ahead and set up an if statement here. And we're going to say if position is equal to 300, then go ahead and clear interval. What that means is stop the interval. And what interval do we want to stop? We want to stop our interval that we created up here. And I just want you guys to know that this interval here is referring to this variable. So if we had, variable taco, well, we could say clear interval taco. It'll work either way. So if position is 300, then stop the interval. Else, what I want you to do is I want you to add one numerical value to position, and then go ahead and take this element Joe that we had earlier, take that element, look into that element style, so target the element style, and then affect the left attribute. Remember the left attribute from earlier when I was showing you guys the jQuery? So set the left attribute to position. And there's something very insignificant that you have to remember to put here, and that is you have to specify what units you want. So in this case, we want to use pixels. So let me go ahead and explain to you what's going on here, because this looks kind of confusing, right? So we have, first of all, we just set a variable Joe equal to the element that we're trying to move, which is this element right here. Then what we did is we set up a function. We declared a variable called position starting at 0. Then we had an interval called taco that executes this function frame every 20 milliseconds. So what's going on in here? Well, in this if statement, we're basically telling it when we want the animation to stop. So what's basically happening is every 20 milliseconds, it's going to go in here and it's going to add one to the position, because since it's starting at 0, it's not yet at 300, right? So it starts at 0 and it's going to add 1. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 really fast every 20 milliseconds. And as it is less than 300, it's going to just keep adding 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 here, and it's going to be adding it to the element's left position very rapidly until it hits 300. So when the position is 300, it's going to stop. So in other words, we can specify here where we want the animation to stop. If we want it to stop at 250 or 300, this is the stopping point basically, because it's where the interval is going to cancel. And of course, this animation won't work unless we invoke the function above. I've learned that too many times the hard way, where I'm like, why isn't my code executing? It's because if you have a function set up in JavaScript, but you never call that function, well, guess what? You're out of luck. It's not going to run. So let's go ahead and see if this works. And as you can see, wow, we're getting that animation. Look how nice and slick that animation is, guys. And so again, it's basically just moving the header over 1 pixel at a time every 20 milliseconds. So as you can imagine, if I go in here and let's say I cut this in half, let's say every 10 milliseconds, as you'll see, we get the animation happening twice as fast, and so on and so forth. So if I say 30, it's moving 1 pixel every 30 milliseconds. And so yeah, that's how you can do a basic JavaScript animation without jQuery. And just as with jQuery, you do have to have the position set to relative. If you do not have this set, it will not work. So do make sure you have that set. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something today. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoy my content. I've got plenty more ideas for videos in the future. And as always, have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching.